threats are as frequent as they are vile. So bad that the UN has stepped in to urge the authorities in India to protect the journalist Rana Ayub. She's a prominent critic of the ruling BJP and of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. She's been threatened with rape and with murder, with a tidal wave of abuse online. UN human rights chiefs point to the murder of another Indian journalist, Gauri Lankesh, last year, saying they've urged the government in Delhi to reverse the hostile political climate. Well, I'm glad to say Rana Ayub, who is the author of Gujarat Files, Anatomy of a Cover-Up, joins us live from the studios in Mumbai. Thank you very much for being here on the programme. This whole latest episode, I think, started with a malicious tweet on April the 20th. Tell me a little more about what actually happened.
Well, I mean, it's quite a bit of a surprise because I'm used to vicious trolling online. I'm used to threats. I mean, I have got threats in the past and it has been reported to the authorities in India, but nothing as vicious as this have I witnessed before. I mean, it started with a series of fake tweets which had me allegedly, fake tweets attributed to me that I was supporting rapists in India in the name of Islam. That was spread in thousands. And then another tweet that said, I hate India and I hate Indians. That was circulated in millions. And then about 2 days later, a pornographic video with my image morphed in it was circulated in thousands on various WhatsApp groups, etc. That led to an entire troll army, some who were led by, who were followed by ministers of the present regime, actually posting it on their social media, threatening me with gang rape and calling me a promiscuous loose woman. It continued for a week. My Facebook, my Instagram, my WhatsApp messages were filled with obnoxious messages, some threatening to drag me to Pakistan, the way they did to Muslims during partition. And death threats have become a norm, following those fake tweets in 2 weeks.
Give me just a brief idea how all of that has actually affected you.
I mean, nothing can really prepare you for something like this. It really breaks you. I mean, I thought, I had a thick skin. I mean, like most journalists, I thought I had a thick skin, but nothing really prepared me for this. This was vicious. This was vile. I mean, can you imagine these screenshots of this pornographic video trickling down my timeline every minute, followed by men asking me for sexual favors, some asking to reach my home to gang rape me. I think it took a huge toll on my psychological health, anxiety attacks. I mean, these screenshots of this pornographic image reaching my father's phone, people who knew me, everybody reaching out to me, some reading out the fake tweets to me. I mean, it made my life a living hell for 2 weeks.
And the obvious question, why do you think you've been targeted in this way?
Well, I have been a critic of this dispensation. I mean, not just this dispensation, but also of the previous dispensation. But, I mean, I have been told in the past, every time I do a big investigative story and investigative work, especially which concerns the ruling dispensation, something like this follows. I was at an awards ceremony a day before this started where I spoke about the need for freedom of speech in India, the press freedom in India, and this has happened. I've also authored a book which has been critical of the ruling dispensation of Narendra Modi and his second in command. But I don't know. I think that's something every journalist across the globe is doing. So I don't know what exactly prompted this.
Is it a situation that's getting worse? I referred in my introduction to Gauri Lankesh, who, of course, was shot dead last year. There have been other cases as well. The UN having to intervene to try to get the Indian government to look after you and reassure you about your safety. Is this a situation that's getting worse?
Well, I think, unfortunately, when 5 UN special rapporteurs have actually had to intervene and write to India, it certainly states how grave the situation is, not just for me, but also for journalists across in India. I mean, last year, my colleague Gauri Lankesh was murdered, and now we have suspects who, I mean, the police investigating agencies have filed a charge sheet that she was killed for her views on Hinduism, etc. So, I mean, there is an intolerant atmosphere in the country, and it's only getting worse by the day, which is why the UN had to intervene.
Just very, very briefly, the government will say they have nothing to do with this. They would condemn all of this activity on social media. Just a couple of sentences. How would you respond to that?
I think it would be great. I mean, it does not require a United Nations special rapporteur to intervene. I think the government could have done this long back. Just issue a statement to people who hate, to people who issue death threats and rape threats to journalists on social media, or not just to journalists, but anybody who's critical of the dispensation. The government really has to send in a line that this is not something which will be tolerated by the ruling dispensation. That unfortunately has not happened so far.
Okay.
In any of the cases.
Rana Ayub, thank you very much for joining us from our studios there in Mumbai. Thanks for your time.